A new push is underway to save the Northern Territory's Indigenous languages. The Northern Territory Library is launching a range of children's books that capture Indigenous stories in Indigenous languages. And in the community of Elliott, about halfway between Alice Springs and Darwin, the books are having a big impact. Letitia Lemke reports.
In the town of Elliott, 850 kilometres south of Darwin, these school kids are celebrating the launch of a new book.
Tradition to make babies strong. Yanan, Balawagari.
The publication is in English and Mudburra, one of the dominant languages of the region, and it's part of a push to save Indigenous languages.
Hooray!
I think that there's an issue across the territory with languages dying out. People might speak them, but there's no written record of them.
The Northern Territory Library has produced 7 books in 7 different languages. Staff worked across the territory collecting stories and translating them into English. But in Elliott that wasn't possible because stories here are now mainly passed down in English.
There's not a lot of language speakers there, and as you know, if people don't use the language, then it becomes lost very quickly.
The library is hoping these books will help maintain Indigenous languages. It's a boost the community of Elliott desperately needs.
We don't strike traditional Aboriginal language in the playground very much. The language of the playground is Aboriginal English, there's no doubt about that.
You have the Creole floating in from the north and what they call bad English or broken English. They're mixing that with the language, with Mudburra, and that's sort of influencing a lot of the young ones. They're picking more of the Creole type English or language than their own, and that's what we're trying to address here.
Although language is failing in the community, art is strong. Images carved into lino help to drive the story. They tell the story of bush medicine needed to keep children and families strong.
I'm glad the children are very interested and they're picking it up and they're running along with it and they teach the other kids, which is great. This is lemongrass, but we call it warinjala. I teach my young kids all about our language and I tell them about our Dreamtime stories as well as the bush medicines here. I encourage and I teach them how to use bush medicine. This is mangi. We use this for when we have blocked up nose.
Janet Gregory translated the story into Mudburra. She's taught her children and grandchildren to speak the language and wants other parents to do the same.
When we have bath. Your own Aboriginal language identifies you as a person, from which region you come from, your family, your kinship system, all to do with our culture.
At the local school, children are taught in English. It's part of a territory-wide shift away from bilingual education, a system where children learned in their first language. But community members say it's been a nail in the coffin for local languages.
I would like a return to teaching in language full-time. If that could happen, that would be great, because Jingaloo is now classed as a dying language, and we don't want that to happen to Mudburra.
The school principal says it's been a positive shift and attendance rates here are better than 70%. Instead of returning to bilingual education, the school is looking at other ways to meet the community's language needs.
We deal with Mudburra the same way that another school might deal with French or Indonesian or whatever. It's an additional language that's studied in a particular class. It's not studied in any great depth at the moment because we don't have the material resources to do it, but we are getting there.
Heather Wilson has been hired to teach Elliott children the Mudburra language. Having grown up in Queensland, she didn't learn her Indigenous language until she was a teenager. The old people that taught her have passed away, and she says a lack of resources and a lack of student motivation make it difficult for her to teach.
Oh yeah, the kids are looking at the new stuff that came in, like videos, and now they got these mobile phones, and it's easy for them to stray away from their culture.
It's hoped books like these will help parents and children learn to speak Mudburra and inspire a love of literature. And with plans underway for more projects, the Northern Territory Library is ensuring this book will be the first of many.
It's part of the Northern Territory's role is to collect and to preserve the culture of the Territory, and of course what better place to start with than the Aboriginal languages that are in use today.
It's a very vital part of our culture, our language. It's what you call the glue that holds everything together. Without language, everything is lost. It disappears, and we don't want that to happen.